Moving on to topic 3, which Andrew will lead.
Oh Lord. Where do we even start with this? Okay, so this story has been floating around for the past couple of months, but we kind of felt I wanted to wait until like most of the facts were out there, just so we wouldn't jump the gun on anything. So yeah, we're finally going to get into the Seungri Burning Sun YG debacle. I have no idea what shit show essentially. It's just a basically giant like shit show at this point. It's multifaceted, just like all this controversy. So, I mean, mainly I would just want to give like our thoughts on it. I will just sort of do a recap as best as I can, because obviously we're pulling sources from Korean websites that have been translated into English, like recompiling websites and trying to figure it out from there. So obviously, I'm sure like I'm trying to build the timeline as best as I can of events that happened regarding Seungri from Big Bang. So, I'll be leading this topic, by the way. Just I'll be the one like sort of divulging all the information. We'll go through the sequence of events and then we'll just sort of give our thoughts afterwards. So, starting it off, NBC, their news division, sort of put out a expose. I guess that's what you have to call something like this, an expose, essentially, where a patron or just some random like person from that went to the Burning Sun nightclub. Their name is Kim Sang-kyo. He accused the employees of Burning Sun nightclub of physically assaulting him. He was attempting to intervene in a sexual assault that was occurring in the club, but the employees stopped him and assaulted him. Mr. Kim Sang-kyo called the police, but according to his claims and like actual like no shit video of it, you see the police just like harassing him and like beating him as well, which was incredibly shocking when I first saw it. He was arrested. He went through like the whole song and dance at like the precinct. He got transferred to a different one, and like the whole time they were like recording him. Like I have like a video up. I don't know if it's here, but like they're like sticking a camera in his face or something while like they're like beating the crap out of him. Man, it's like, ooh, like really heavy stuff. Kim believed that the cops were attempting to protect the nightclub, which is why they're trying to silence him essentially by like trying to beat him out of like beat it out of him essentially. So that was the first story that broke. Afterwards, there were reports that date rape drugs were used. For those that are, again, this is serious stuff, but if you're a bit of a younger listener, date rape drugs are like, when you hear someone say spiking a drink, that means they're putting some type of like pill or some type of like medicine thing that'll make you either fall asleep entirely or just make you super blackout, just like lax, and you're spacing out. It's like you're still conscious, but you're not really comprehending anything or not really doing anything. So they're drugging female club goers. And supposedly they were reserving, or the VIP club members were. Basically, they left these women to whatever devices or whatever these VIP club members wanted to do to them. So, yeah, definitely a worse element of this story. At this point, Seungri's name was linked to the Burning Sun nightclub as some type of manager or promoter. Something like that. Yeah,
he's either like like he gets paid to promote the club, or he's invested in it.
Something like that. He wasn't the owner outright.
He's not an owner, and I don't think he like actively like handles anything in the club itself. Not that he's not at fault, but like. I don't think he had like any say in the day-to-day operations.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where, I run the club, like where basically they just put a famous person like on the poster or the marquee or whatever, just to entice people, or like, there's a chance you might meet Seungri at this club, that sort of thing. I mean, it seemed to be a pretty popular nightclub because I think Hyoyeon did a set for when Punk Right Now came out. She did a set at Burning Sun, so
Okay.
really pretty popular establishment. Seungri, after all this came out, he put out an Instagram apology, like in like the description, or he put out a post.
It took a while.
And
then he put one out.
Yeah, so
it wasn't instantly.
He said in the apology that he was not in the club during the night of the assault. He claimed no knowledge of drugs or violence, and he promised to cooperate fully with the authorities. Supposedly the club shut down after that too, maybe because of investigations or just bad press. No one wanted to go. I'd say the big bombshell would be SBS. I don't know, I guess you'd call it a news division as well. SBS revealed, I don't know how they got these at all, in all honesty. Kakao Talk messages supposedly between Seungri, someone identified as Mr. Yu, who is the co-owner of an investment firm that Seungri and Mr. Yu ran, and an employee named Mr. Kim. Supposedly in these, or according to the translation of these Kakao Talk messages that I have up here, they are discussing or organizing prostitutes for some like high profile clients coming from China or something like that. They've go into very, very detailed I guess descriptions of what they want or whatever. I think one of the translations I saw or whatever. I'll by the way, I'll put all of my sources here. Just I'm not talking out of my ass when it comes to this stuff. But like one of the translations said that like Mr. Yu was like, oh, like Chinese like plastic girls. Get one that won't make a fuss is what Seungri supposedly said. Like basically just trying to organize what girls to send up to these businessmen that eventually got involved with Yuri Holdings, the company that Seungri and Mr. Yu ran. So yeah, just very, very damning evidence to some degree. Seungri denied the validity of these text messages. He claimed they were fake. Afterwards, he surrendered himself to the police for questioning and drug tests to see if...
That was so
I don't
dumb.
know why. I mean, like, it's
not...
not...
it was 100% like a deflection. Like, oh, I don't do drugs. Like, here, I'll prove it.
I think
it's like, yeah, but nobody cares if you're doing drugs.
They took a urine sample and like a hair sample. I was like, maybe they were seeing if he was actually like involved in the rape cases or not. But I mean, like, it didn't seem like he was that in the weeds.
Yeah.
So the rest of his tour gets canceled. Then Dispatch. This is the craziest one. Dispatch News, the good side of Dispatch, not the bad side that just ruins people's lives. I guess they're kind of ruining his life, but it's kind of warranted to this degree. They revealed that Seungri, in December of 2017, he had a birthday party in the Philippines in Palawan, which is, for those that don't know, Palawan is like a big resort type of thing. It's like going to like the Caribbean, but like in Asia type of thing. So yeah, so it's a big like touristy type of place. So he had this big like birthday bash. He rented out that entire resort for 3 days, that sort of thing. Supposedly, according to this Dispatch News report, Seungri had flown out a hostess that he was a regular of to his birthday party in Palawan, paid for all of her expenses as long as she brought pretty friends with her. So that was maybe not a direct connection necessarily, but it was noted that they opened Burning Sun 2 months after that party. So there can maybe people are speculating it might have been like a trial run of like how well maybe like Seungri could be involved in like day-to-day operations with the club. But so at this point in the story, like no direct connection between Seungri Burning Sun and YG has been made in terms of like YG Entertainment as the company having any direct involvement with it. But and I'd say that's still true to some degree. But I mean, there are tertiary related stories regarding the actual person YG being involved in his own nightclubs. Like there's one called Love Signal, which might have changed its name to Club X or something like that, which is owned by YG and his brother Young Min Suk. The nightclubs, and he apparently YG owns a bunch like of nightclubs as well. Yeah. All of them were sort of found to be guilty of tax evasion, where nightclub establishments or adult entertainment venues are supposed to, in terms of taxes, they're supposed to provide, I think, like 13% more in terms of taxes than what they filed as, and they filed all of them as restaurants primarily, just to avoid like high taxes sort of things. I mean, it's not really that related, but I mean, it's kind of funny that all of this stuff.
It's just a tertiary thing.
It's interesting that all of this is coming out, or all of this is going on, related to a YG artist involving the owner of YG as well. At this point, also, a website called chosun.com managed to capture footage outside the YG offices where there was like a big like truck, and they were destroying like boxes and paper bags and suitcases and like electronics. They hired like a shredding company, like a proper shredding company, to sort of get rid of all this stuff. A YG spokesperson said that, this is just a regular sort of thing in terms of like every quarter they destroy sensitive documents. And I mean, that's probably believable to some degree, because that's like all big companies. Yeah. Like they, like all celebrities too, a lot of celebrities, like they destroy like phones or like stuff like that might, if it gets leaked, it would like ruin, or it would give an unfair advantage or whatever to like, I don't know, like competitors, that sort of thing. So it's like to protect their business interests. But, what sort of maybe draws some notable exception to this is that apparently they interviewed they talked with one of the truck drivers, and the truck driver said that they've never been to YG before. So that's an interesting tidbit. So we're filming this on March 8th of 2019, obviously, but so basically like this story is still breaking, but I'd say where we'd ended off with is Seungri, as of yesterday, is enlisting in the military on March 25th, and supposedly this was planned a while back. It just so happened that all of this, maybe all of this stuff kind of wanted to rush the process a bit, but the story is just a huge mess. Like there's reports of like reporters getting the people looking into this are getting like death threats, or like their life's at risk.
That sort of thing. Bring that up. But yeah, like one of the reporters basically came out or I don't know if it was, I think it was more of a private message that got out, but like he was saying that like this goes like way higher than he like even imagined, and he's like worried that he basically just wanted to stop reporting on any of this because he's worried that it'll actually like he might have like
he'll run in with the wrong people. Yeah
exactly.
So that is that's the magnitude of the story that we're dealing with here. So I'll let you go first, Nate. Just give your overall thoughts on the whole thing. I mean, I don't know where to start exactly with this, but I mean, go for it.
I mean, I don't. There's like literally no denying this. Like, there's so much evidence for all of it. Like, and I mean, So first of all, like, I actually went to a lot of clubs when I was in Seoul, but like we were always like a large group, and it was always like a lot of guys and a lot of girls together. So it was never really like all the international students. So we like didn't like obviously it's not something I have to worry about. And like all the girls that I hung out with always went we always went as a big group. So like it was nothing we ever really had to worry about.
Yeah, no one was just like off on their own like that. That's the riskiest part. Yeah, if you're going to a club alone, like exactly. Even in America, like you don't know what the fuck they're gonna put in your drink.
I was gonna say that's just club culture everywhere. Like you hear about that everywhere. Like that's colleges all around the US. That's clubs in Europe. Like that's just what happens at clubs, and it's a horrible thing, and that's why people don't go to them. Like there's only a certain type of person that goes to a club. Like it's a horrible thing, but that's just what happens at clubs. So really, this is only newsworthy because a celebrity was attached to this club. This is happening at tons of clubs in Korea and tons of clubs around the world, and it's a horrible thing that needs to be stopped. But there's not really
not much you can do. Yeah, it's just that's the thing. It's just it's ingrained in like the culture
club
of itself.
Culture. Yeah, exactly.
It's very hard when it's ingrained in culture. Like that shit's just like impossible to stop. Like like that's a thing where if you go to like Coachella or whatever, like they're like people willingly advertise. Okay, you. It's like a roofie tester, like dead ass. Like it'll test like whatever pills you're taking, so it's not like tainted or like fucked with or whatever. Like people advertise like that stuff.
There's like cups I know that like if you like could change color or whatever if there's drugs in your drink or whatever. Like there's definitely like tons of things like evolved around this. So the start of the situation with the whole sexual harassment at the club, that's not surprising at all.
Not surprising.
And yeah, like we said, it's not. Unfortunately, it wouldn't even be newsworthy if Seungri wasn't attached to it. But getting into and then the other side of it, where it gets into like the investment firm getting prostitutes for clients, that's also a thing that happens everywhere.
Everywhere. So, like if you believe even for a second that no American company is doing this type of shit for like big name if you don't believe that like some type of like huge business deal, like I don't want to like drag people like in the mud or whatever, but like if somebody like a business on the level of like I don't know, like Apple or like I don't know, just like freaking like Warner Brothers or like something in like big entertainment, and if you don't think they're securing deals via this method, like you're sadly mistaken.
It's like, and that's a whole thing about this entire story is every part of it wouldn't be newsworthy if Seungri wasn't attached to it or YG wasn't attached to it. Like all of these things are happening all over the world and they're all horrible, but it's just what happens. And there's not really anything anyone can do about it unless the entire like corporate culture decided to change. Clubbing culture decided to change. I lost my train of thought. As for like Seungri being involved in it, this also is not surprising. The celebrities just like that's what happens. That's why you hear about stories of all the celebrities. That's all they do is take tons of drugs and they have crazy parties and spend their money in horrible ways and then make shady investment firms and companies to try to make more money. Like if you think your idols are like idols on that high, like I feel like I don't know. I don't want to say that all idols do this because I don't think all idols do this. But if you don't think that some of your idols are doing this, then you're definitely wrong because there are plenty of them that are doing this. Yeah, because
once you hit a certain point in terms of the industry where you have control and you have like you have weight to your name, it's the natural progression of things, unfortunately.
Yeah, if you have any inkling of like wanting to do this stuff and you get that powerful, you're gonna do this stuff.
You're gonna get your hands dirty.
Not every idol has that mindset, I feel like but yeah, it's all of these things are 100% common, and if you don't understand that, you're like you just don't understand how the world works yet.
It's not a thing. Like I feel like the biggest backlash is like, oh, why is everyone picking on Seungri or whatever? It's like this is like he's just kind of like I don't know, like it's just the circumstances that he just so happened to be a famous person that involved in this case. Where basically
and I don't want to defend him at all. I think like all these things are horrible, and he deserves like all of this backlash and hate that he's getting. But if you think if you want to, or like if you're wondering why he's getting this hate and like we want to defend him, like I feel like you need to take a look at like all of this evidence and be like, he probably deserves it. Like, you don't blindly defend people that just because you idolize them.
Yep.
If like, sure, if it was entirely circumstantial and there was no like direct evidence or very little evidence, then I could understand being like, maybe he's being set up, or like maybe it's all BS, like, and defending him. But at this point, there's just no way he wasn't involved in any of this stuff. So yeah, but also, yeah, like, I don't want to defend him, but there's 100% lots of other idols doing this.
Oh,
lots of other celebrities.
This is the tip of the iceberg, I'm sure.
So like, and Korea is very, very much corrupt. Like, I mean, I feel like in general, it's just the way capitalism works. Like, I'm like,
that's just how they do business in Korea.
That's just how rich. Yeah, well, and that's how I do business here. Like, yeah, that's just how, when you get companies this big with this much money, like, that's
not just the money,
what happens.
This
like,
much power.
And power.
Power
yeah, exactly.
is a big element to this. Yeah.
So yeah, that's my 2 cents. Like, overall, everything in this story, involved in the story, is horrible. And unfortunately, it's happening everywhere. And yeah, I think Seungri's pretty much done at this point. Like, he's going to military and coming back. Like, no one's gonna care about him.
Yeah, he can't rein his way out of this one. Like, Rain disappeared after his like nobody knew who the hell he was after he came back from like military service. Like, that's not happening for Seungri. Like, he's way too. That's a blessing and the curse of Big Bang being arguably the most popular, the most influential boy group in all of Korean K-pop music history, where if they do something amazing, they're out there. If they fuck up, they're out there. And oh boy, Seungri fucked up. He fucked up bad. Like, you thought like crashing his car or freaking getting like a picture of him taken like next to like some like half naked next to some like Japanese girl was bad. Like, this is on a completely different universe in terms of like actual scandal, whereas those were just, I don't know, shit that happened.
Yeah. And as for YG, tax evasion, literally every company in the world does tax evasion.
Like, you know what?
So like, that's just like the most minor thing.
Yeah.
Like,
that's not the worst thing in this entire list of like terrible things. Like, you know why accountants get paid so much is because they're paying accountants so much because you're trying to find loopholes so that they can keep more of their money or hide more of their money in like offshore accounts and shit. Like, if you're not doing that as an accountant, you're probably not doing your job well enough, unfortunately. But
also, YG's just always been a giant asshole that clearly had lots of horrible moral like decisions and ideas. So yeah,
it's not so.
We've talked about how how much we hate YG plenty on this show, so won't get into that.
Yeah. So as for my thoughts, I'd say just, I don't know if it's to his credit or maybe to his detriment, but at least my thoughts after hearing all of this is it's entirely possible that he's not like the criminal mastermind behind this whole thing. Like, I think that's kind of a given, just because like it seems like a lot of the people involved or the people he was associating with had power, money, not necessarily fame. It's just the fact that
Seungri using him for his fame.
He's using him for his fame, and Seungri's fame is why it's known as the Seungri case, not like random like Mr. Kim from Yuri Holdings. Yeah. Because exactly. The reason why this story is notable is, again, like we've said, is because of Seungri's association with it. So I don't think he had any direct involvement in like the date rape or who knows, maybe.
No, that's just something that happens at all clubs, and he was just promoting a club where it happened and it got out.
And I mean, the prostitution thing is kind of bad, but I mean, I'd say the way this reads is, it kind of seems like Seungri, and it's evident from his like demeanor, he's the kind of person that wants to advance his career or has high aspirations, and it feels like those aspirations got him involved in some really like shady shit. Like it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'm sure like I'm sure when he first got into the idol industry, he was never dreaming of, oh, I'm gonna go run a club where they date rape people or something like that. Like that probably wasn't on his mind. It's just, this isn't a Korea thing either. It's like an all celebrity type thing.
No, yeah. This
like
is
basically,
yeah.
Oh god, like I got something in my eye. But
no, yeah.
Basically how the entertainment industry works is basically it reeks from top to bottom, and the only way to move up is if you embrace the smell. Like that's the only way like you can like move up in the entertainment industry, and that's a fact. Like I'm sorry, like it's not that's not rose colored or anything. Like I'm not trying to like sugarcoat that. Basically, you got to do horrible shit to be where you are or to gain power and influence in celebrity culture. And that's the sad truth. Like, just like I'd say the moral of the story is role models can be celebrities, but not all celebrities are role models. Like
oh yeah, definitely.
They are the perpetrator. Like, it's always so funny when you hear people like, oh, I fucking hate rich people and like all the 1% people and they oppress us all the time. But everyone has such a blind like eye to when it's celebrities, because celebrities are just exactly. as guilty as of that kind of shit. Just because you like their music or you like their art or you think they're cute doesn't mean they're any less guilty of being that. I'm not crying, by the way. I just got lotion in my eye. It's so annoying. I'm trying to be serious here, but it looks like I'm fucking crying.
Yeah. But yeah, once again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm defending Seungri, because clearly, like you said, he had aspirations throughout his career and wanted to be as big and rich and famous and powerful as possible, and he did horrible things to do that. But especially once the reporter talked about how this went way bigger than way higher than he originally thought, and he wanted to stop, it makes it seem more and more clear that Seungri was like almost a fall man.
Yeah,
because of his fame. Like you said, this is the Seungri case, not the random rich investor case. But those are the people that I feel like are really orchestrating all this.
Yeah, they're the ones pulling the strings. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely people above them that are pulling strings, whereas Seungri he's famous. So yeah, if it does ever get out, like it did, he would be there to be the person that people care about.
While
he takes the blame,
while they just sit back there in the shadows, like
exactly. None of those people are going to get in trouble or anything. Like they're just going to keep making money and doing horrible things.
Yeah, their name isn't getting dragged through the mud. It's Seungri's. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, and I'm 100% sure after this whole thing dies down, they're going to get some new unsuspecting aspirational idol. They're going to drag them into this like seedy underworld with promises of like, oh, this is how. Maybe that's why I don't think it's crazy necessarily to think that maybe he inherited all of this like business practices or like this way of conducting business from someone like YG. And after hearing like all this stuff about like how YG runs his clubs, like if it's not surprising if like YG has some type of like dirty laundry of this degree to sort of hide away. I mean, I don't want to put too much into like the burning of like or destroying documents because that's a normal thing, but I mean, it is kind of suspicious like in terms of like them not doing it to this degree or them not hiring this company, that sort of thing. But I think I feel like what separates this case from what might happen here like in America or like Western Europe or that sort of thing is just with the power structure that's in place in Korea, where you basically have companies like Samsung and LG or whatever, like the entertainment companies are essentially like huge chaebol, like conglomerates that control so much in so many different fields and essentially have monopolies on certain categories and that sort of thing. As long as that happens and as long as they have that much control over business and influence, social influence, political influence, as long as they have allies in the Blue House or as long as they have allies in government, like none of this is going to change. Nothing. Like this whole expose is going to change jack shit, and that's the sad truth. It's just going to be like, oh, Seungri ruined his life, but this stuff's still gonna go on. Unfortunately, that's just how.
Exactly.
That's just how they do business in Korea.
That's just how the world works everywhere.
Yeah, basically, and like, it sucks to admit that. I don't want to be too pessimistic about this.
Exactly.
But I mean, that's like no company is clean. No company is clean in terms of like you don't get this big. You don't get companies as big as YG and JYP and SM if you're not doing some shady thing, or if you're not making sweetheart deals, or if you're not playing dirty, you're not playing. Basically, that's how the business world works, unfortunately. And I mean, as much as you'd want to change that, as much as you'd like people to change that, it's the type of people that are attracted to these type of fields are the people that aren't concerned about that, aren't concerned about dragging themselves through the mud or just doing anything to get ahead, especially. And that's just the cutthroat nature of business. So. I guess we can leave it on that ultimately. You're more than welcome to provide your own thoughts in the comments on what you think of the situation, whether it's warranted, or if you feel like Seungri is just a fall guy. So definitely just be very not professional, but just be adults about it. Like, don't be like, don't be like, I love Seungri, I'm gonna defend him forever and ever and ever. I really hope there aren't people like that, though. But I mean, there are. I mean, there's still people like that with like fucking Chris Brown or whatever. Chris Brown literally beat the hell out of a woman, and still has women that defend him. So,
yeah.
Okay, so we are recording this part the day before this topic goes up because a lot of
shit happened.
Yeah, a lot has changed and a lot has updated. We originally recorded this topic on Friday, March 8th. Today is Tuesday, March 12th, and there's a lot that happened or has been updated in the time of our recording, so we decided to just add this addendum afterwards so we could be up to date in terms of what news we divulge or how that affects our opinions and so on and so on. So I'll just go through this quickly, and I'll try not to make it all too long. Since our recording was finished, we had mentioned that before that Seungri was he was embroiled in the prostitution ring sort of thing. Pretty much almost after we finished recording, he was officially named as a suspect in the prostitution ring case. Usually that sort of leads to charges being filed. This entire case was addressed by the Prime Minister Lee Nak-yeon. Basically, he was just mentioning about the corruption. He never named Seungri specifically, but he went into, or it was part of a general address or something, but he mentioned it and talked about corruption and the whole scandal sort of thing. And keep in mind that the current administration in the Blue House, specifically Iran, on fighting the corruption in the wake of Park Jin-hae's sort of all that nonsense that happened in 2017. So
and with the club stuff, the cops were supposedly in on it. So
basically the case was taken away from Gangnam PD and essentially handed over to their equivalent of the FBI, essentially, just so it's the Special Crime Squad and the Anti-Corruption and Civil Rights Commission were the ones sort of handling most of the case. In the wake of suspicions and accusations of Gangnam PD supposedly turning a blind eye or actually silencing anyone from divulging this information about this case. And the big bombshell that happened was on Sunday here. Seungri went on Instagram and made a post stating that he was retiring from the entertainment industry. I'll just read the translation that Soompi provided right now. So it says, quote, "This is Seungri. At this point, I think it would be best if I retire from the entertainment industry. I decided on retiring from the entertainment industry as the issues that I caused that I caused a societal disturbance with are too major. Regarding the issues that are being investigated, I will be investigated diligently and reveal all the suspicions. Receiving criticism and hate from the public for the past month and a half, and with the situation of all the investigative agencies in the country currently investigating me, I'm even concerned being cornered as a traitor of the nation. I personally cannot tolerate causing harm to everyone around me in order to save myself. I sincerely thank all the fans in and outside of Korea who have given me lots of love for the past 10 years, and I think this is where I stop, even if it's at least to protect the honor of YG and Big Bang. Again, I'm sorry and apologize once again. I've been thankful to everyone until now. So that's it. I think he wrote that even without informing YG of the actual, like, the fact that he was going to retire. So
I mean, it's kind of expected at this point. There's nothing. There's no way he would be able to continue anyway.
Yeah, his career
even
was
before
DI.
this current stuff that came out.
So after that, sort of the same time, SBS Fun E released an additional report stating that in that possibly the same Kakao Talk chat room that we mentioned before in this topic, that they were sharing hidden camera footage of, I believe it was specifically one member, or Mr. Yu, the guy that's basically in charge of running the club, or like the one that's also involved in like Yuri Industries. He had like this hidden camera footage of people having sex at one of the nightclubs or something like that, and that they were sharing hidden camera footage within this group chat, and they hadn't named names at this point, but some they said that some were idols, some were like regular civilians, or people not in the entertainment industry. And then I believe on Monday it was, sometime or after that, a name was actually divulged as someone that actually participated in this, that was an idol, goes by the name of Jung, also known as JJY. If you're not familiar with him, he does solo music. He's part of a band called Drug Restaurant. I believe at one point he was signed to be a professional, professional PUBG athlete. So he's definitely a well-known name in the Korean music industry, and he was implicated in this report as having shared hidden camera footage of him having sex with unsuspecting women, or that the women weren't aware that they were being recorded, which is obviously illegal in Korea. I believe the penalty is like 5 years or something like that. Like it's a pretty hefty like jail sentence, or like it's a pretty hefty sentence as it is. So definitely carries a lot of weight.
It should be.
It was this whole whirlwind thing where he was filming it here in the United States for, I don't know, some type of like show, or I don't know, maybe his music comeback. He was on a lot of variety shows or whatever. As soon as this report came out, basically everyone just like started to admit, or started to distance themselves, or saying like, oh, he's going to be removed from the program. But at this point, at this point in time, he didn't like acknowledge it or whatever until he came back to Korea. Like he literally came back to Korea like the day after this broke, and he was charged with the hidden camera footage sort of thing. He was barred from leaving the country. Same thing, I believe, with Seungri, just so like flight risk. Obviously, can't leave while you're suspected of like all these crimes. And literally just today, like literally like a couple of hours before we recorded this podcast, he puts out a letter basically admitting to like everything that he like did, or everything that he was accused of, in terms of just like the hidden camera footage, and sharing this hidden camera footage of him having sex with people in that group chat. So I'll read you again. The translation is courtesy of Sumpi. Quote, I write to you in shame and guilt. I, Jung Joon, once again realize the seriousness of this situation after returning to Korea on March 12th. Although it's already late, I apologize through this letter to all the people who showed an interest in me and gave me a second chance. in regards to what is being said in relation to me, I admit to all my crimes. I filmed women without their consent and shared it in a social media chat room. And while I did so, I didn't feel a great sense of guilt. As a public figure, it was an unethical act worthy of criticism and such a thoughtless action. More than anything, I kneel and apologize to the women who appear in the videos, who have learned of the hideous truth as the incident has come to light, and to the many people who must be angry at the situation over which they cannot contain their disappointment and astonishment. I'm withdrawing from all the programs that I was appearing on, and I will suspend all activities in the entertainment industry. I will now sit down all my activities as a public figure that are not self-reflection, and I will reflect for the rest of my life on my moral and illegal actions related to the crimes. More than anyone else, I apologize to the women who have experienced great suffering due to my actions, to the many people who must feel anger even more so than disappointment, and to the many people who made me into a public figure and cherished me. I will sincerely take part without any falsehoods in the investigations that will begin on the morning of March 14th, and I will accept my punishment for my actions. I once again deeply apologize. I am sorry. An interesting note in this case, before even any of this came out, he was in a scandal, I believe, involving maybe an ex in regards to I'm sorry, like I forgot to check it up before, either something regarding this, something like this, or
I think it was something similar.
It's either like hidden camera or like some type of like sexual abuse type sort of situation. Apparently went away, sort of thing. So he is, this isn't his first time being sort of linked to this type of behavior or this type of like sort of scandal. So this time there was no running around it, essentially. So that being said, I guess now we can sort of go into, I guess, any new thoughts on these developments or sort of what we can add on to what we already divulged before. So Nate, go ahead.
So first, before we get into the new stuff, I basically just wanted to talk about, or just mention, like, I know the previous part of this topic, it might have seemed like we were like kind of defensive, or well, not defensive, but we have to play devil's advocate for the sake of conversation. Dismissive was the word I was thinking of. Sorry, it might have sounded like we were kind of dismissive. I hope no one took that the wrong way, because like we definitely don't condone any of this shit, like the prostitution stuff. That obviously, like the prostitution ring stuff, definitely not the like date rape stuff. But for the sake of conversation, we kind of had to be like, well, here's what might be happening with Seungri, and like we definitely don't condone any of Seungri's actions. I think he deserves all of this, and hopefully goes to jail for a long time. But yeah, for the sake of conversation, we kind of had to be like, well, here's what might be happening. Seungri might be a fall guy, that type of stuff. But he still knew what he was doing, and we don't condone any of that.
And I mean, none of that's really, if anything, I feel like a lot of those thoughts or speculations are kind of reinforced through a lot of what we like found out in the past few days. It's definitely we were definitely like on point, I believe, with where our like thoughts were. So
as for the current thing, it's absolutely disgusting. That's like it's just completely horrible thing that to like film these women and then share it with your friends in a chat room and think that's cool or okay. And like the thing that really pisses me off is these apology letters. I hate apology letters out of these, because you know it's insincere because of the fact that they only did it because they were caught.
And also it's a legal thing too. You have to show some like element of remorse in hopes that your sentence sort of gets reduced.
Exactly.
So everyone knows this is these apology letters are bullshit. Like specifically in terms of like the wording with Seungri's, it's like as a it was something it was something about like Oh no, it was Jung Jun-young's. I believe it was like as a public figure, it was unethical act. Yeah, like it's.
Yeah, it's like no, it wasn't because you were a public figure. It was unethical and illegal. Like, it's unethical and illegal if you're a human being. Like,
yeah, anyone.
Like
really,
fuck off.
It doesn't matter if you're the president of Korea or literally just like some random person on the street that nobody knows.
So yeah, those piss me off so much because like they're insincere. They would have never made this apology if they didn't get caught because they were okay with it. Clearly, they were okay with doing it.
And to some degree, Seungri hasn't necessarily confessed.
He hasn't directly
Seungri
confessed. Hasn't actually directly confessed like JJY did. But yeah, obviously this is a horrible thing. I think this is way worse than the previous things we talked about, because those weren't like directly. So obviously, like a club, we talked about this in the previous thing, but like the club culture and stuff is horrible. But like just being part of owning and promoting a club where that happens isn't nearly as bad as directly doing this type of thing.
Yeah,
like,
the direct involvement.
It's not something he had direct involvement or control of. I mean, maybe he did, because we're trying not to talk about too many things that aren't confirmed straight from like sources and police and stuff, but I know I read something similar about the people at Burning Club, or like Burning Club actually providing drugs. I don't know about that. I don't want to get into that because I don't know if that's true. But yeah, so this is definitely way worse, and it's horrible. And I hope they go to jail for a really long time, because they deserve to go to jail for a really long time.
Yep. I don't think that you can. I don't think YG can. Well, one, they don't have friends in the. They don't have friends in the administration anymore at this point. Like, they can't just wave this one away.
And they're being destroyed. I think I read today though their biggest investor pulled out.
I know,
and I know their stocks dropping like crazy.
I should check their stocks right now. YG Entertainment.
But no, I read this morning that their biggest investor might have dropped out too. So
shit. Oh, it kind of recovered, but I mean, for the past 5 days, it was on Friday. It was at a peak of 43,250 Korean won. Hit a shallow of 35,350. So that's like what, like an almost like 10,000 won, 8,000 won decrease in a matter of days. I mean, it's recovering a bit now, but like it definitely this is hurting. This is definitely hurting the bottom line when it comes to YG. So yeah, they're regardless of the extent of their involvement or YG, the person's connection to this case, it's definitely hurting their bottom line. So yeah, I guess to get into like my sort of additional thoughts, in regards to Seungri retiring from the industry, I believe prior, the other members of Big Bang have been noted as saying that if like they can't come back as 5, they won't come back. I feel like this is kind of extenuating circumstances, so I don't know if it's in their best interest to either wait for Seungri or just straight up disband Big Bang. I feel like the 4 of them can go on after this, in all honesty.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
because they have a major point.
As far as we know, as far as we know now, like they don't have any involvement in any of this. Because I mean, well, they're in the military, and they expressed their wariness of, like I mentioned before, of Seungri's business partners. So hopefully they did stray away from it, involving themselves in this sort of thing. As for Jung Jun-young, definitely disappointing and kind of shocking to some degree. But I mean, less about the actual like hidden camera part, because I feel like that you're almost kind of desensitized, because that's actually a really big thing in Korea, just like the whole molka sort of thing. Like just it's been a really big thing where like people hide like cameras in public restrooms and like the women's restroom or something like that. I don't know, but just the way he was talking about these sort of exploits in the group chat, or just like how with little regard to the way he was treating or speaking of these women that he was having sex with, he in all honesty, it really comes off of like the stereotypical like I'm more powerful than God rock star type person that expects to get away with that sort of thing. And I mean, to some degree, I mean, like, I know a lot of this is still very shocking and disturbing for most people, but, like, it's not surprising that this always happens with either, like, people in power, like politicians, businessmen, or celebrities, because it takes a special kind of person to, like, actively seek out, like, this level or this type of field, this type of fame, notoriety, admiration, that sort of thing. It takes a special type of person, and more often than not, people in like this high up in the industry surround themselves with yes men that'll like say, oh yeah, well they'll do literally anything you want, and their egos just get super inflated by like diehard fans who are willing to literally do anything for them. Like, they could kill someone and they'll still defend them. I mean, freaking, like, to draw an example in Western culture, like, R. Kelly's going through all his nonsense now, and apparently, some people are saying it's a cover because he knows a lot of people money, but supposedly he had $160,000 bail, and it was paid. He couldn't pay it himself because he's broke, and apparently a fan paid it for him. Fan paid $160,000 worth of bail to a suspected child abuser. Again, like, people are like any level or any even inkling of like acknowledgement from their idol is literally drives people to do the most insane things and say the most insane things. Like, we can get into like how crazy like freaking Twitter is with how many people are in denial about it, or how like defensive people are, like, oh, they're just trying to do this for Big Bang, like we mentioned that before. But I mean, at this point, there's really no room for like Seungri or anyone to wiggle out of this, in all honesty. So like the writing, the writing's on like the gravestone at this point already. And I mean, that's, I guess that's just the nature of celebrity and like celebrity worship, where people literally revere people like Seungri or JJY or R. Kelly as gods that cannot do no wrong. Yeah. And when you give people that amount of power over you, they will always abuse it. So I think that's the moral lesson to take away from this, is don't give people that much power over you, because they'll find some way to take advantage of it. Yeah. And if they think that they can do, or like if you think they can do no wrong, and enough people think that, they end up thinking that. Yep. And then they think they're above the law and they can just do stuff like this, and there's no consequences to it when they're 100%. And a lot of the time they can, because there are some people with like a certain amount of influence and money and power can get away with these sort of things. But the one sort of thing to note is, again, this administration, this current Korean administration ran on corruption, and they are going to crucify Seungri. They're going to make him the poster boy of like corruption and like this like entire scandal, because they're going to make an example of him to hopefully scare the shit out of all those people that are literally running for cover right now, trying to cover their tracks or like divest themselves out of any relation to stuff like this or whatever. So like, they're literally, Seungri again is the poster boy of this. He's gonna be like the guy that they'll try to like make, again, he's the one that's good. They're gonna put they're going to like put on the poster of, okay, you want to mess around with all this stuff? Well, look what's gonna happen to you.
Yeah, and I mean that's 100% what should happen.
Should happen, yeah.
Because, well, and like you said, like the current administration ran on anti-corruption because of the previous administration. And just thinking about this, if the previous administration was still there, this probably wouldn't be happening right now. I think they would have all been swept under the rug 100% because YG was best friends with that administration, and that was like the whole problem with it. Was this type of thing was just happening, and literally, people were getting away with it.
Yeah, just like the regular citizens in Korea were just getting fed up of big chaebol companies and like people like with power and status and money just literally getting away with crimes when they just crack down hard on just like everyday folk. And I mean, to some degree, I don't think this case is going to stop that entirely. I mean, literally,
no, not at all.
It's going to continue happening, unfortunately. But I mean, you just have to hope that it'll scare a lot of the people like conducting in this like shady business in Korea. Hopefully, I mean, any idol, like it'll scare current idols or like literally any like celebrity figure from. Hopefully, it'll make them think twice about the people they associate with and like try to cut out all of these shady people in their lives. Because again, like we've mentioned before, I'm sure Seungri never went into the entertainment industry aiming to become like a high-ranking member of like a prostitution ring or whatever. I don't think he ever intended that. It's just the way that they ended up conducting business, and hopefully this serves as it'll serve as a lesson to everyone that's at YG to like keep out of scandal. Hopefully,
if YG continues existing.
Yeah, if YG continues existing, and just hopefully it's just a good life lesson for all of us in general. Just when you think you're untouchable, that's when you're the most vulnerable. And Seungri, he got caught, and now he should face the consequences.
Yeah, and don't do gross shit.
Don't do the creepy like that sort of thing. Yeah.
Think about the people you're affecting and ruining lives for your own enjoyment.
Yep.
Not that anyone listening to this hopefully is doing anything horrible like that.
Like the creepy voyeurism type thing. But anyway, that should close out the topic. Let us know if there's anything that we missed. Since in the time that this went up, let us know let us know what your thoughts are in the comments, as I mentioned before, either on what we covered previously or the new developments. Please, we'd love your feedback. We'd love to start a conversation with this so that it doesn't fall away out of the limelight. This is the best way to sort of keep these things from ever happening again, is by not forgetting that they ever happened in the first place.
Yeah.
Lay, NCT127, and Jason Derulo did a collaboration song that was inspired by Michael Jackson. It's a Michael Jackson tribute, and it's called Let's Shut Up and Dance. So,
trash lyrics.
No, I enjoyed it. Like, Jason Derulo's not bad. Like,